and welcome to 19th Century CNN. Today we'll be discussing post-Civil War era. After the war, a new era of industry, big business, and capitalism waged through the country, fueled by innovative ideas and inventions. The oil, steel, food, and meat, and railroad businesses connected the countries in ways different than ever before. One of the most prominent men of that time was John D Rockefeller, who ran 95% of the oil refineries in all of the country at one point. As dominant and as successful as this was, and as much as it helped the economy, Rockefeller's tactics and his beliefs on big business and monopoly mindset was a problem for the rest of the country and the population that worked under him. This past week, on 6.5 Minutes, I had a chance to sit down and talk to John about his life and his decisions that helped change the country.
John D. Rockefeller was born into a large family in New York on July 8, 1839. As a kid, he made money by selling candy and raising turkeys. His family moved several times before settling in Cleveland, Ohio, where he studied bookkeeping and became an assistant bookkeeper at the age of 16. He once said, "All my future seemed to hinge on that day." Rockefeller considered the day he got his bookkeeping job an important day and celebrated annually. At the age of 20, he went into a business partnership with Maurice B. Clark. He soon bought him out and founded Rockefeller and Andrews with his brother Williams and Samuel Andrews. And at this time in his career, he only focused on refining. In 1967, Henry Flagler joined Rockefeller and Andrews. The company grew larger by incorporating local refineries. In 1870, the company became the Standard Oil Company. While running the Standard Oil Company, Rockefeller succeeded in extorting from the railroads a deal that gave him major advantage over his competitors, preferential rebates. As the need for kerosene and gasoline grew, Rockefeller's wealth grew and became the richest person in the United States, at one point controlling 90% of the oil in the U.S. In 1890, the U.S. Congress passed the Sherman Antitrust Act, the first federal legislation prohibiting trust and combination that restrained trade. 2 years later, the Ohio Supreme Court dissolved the Standard Oil Trust. However, the businesses within the trust soon became part of Standard Oil of New Jersey, which functioned as a holding company. In 1911, after years of litigation, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled Standard Oil of New Jersey was in violation of antitrust laws and forced it to dismantle. Rockefeller retired in the mid-1890s. Inspired by Carnegie, he donated money to education, religion, and science. He funded the establishment of the University of Chicago, Rockefeller University, and Central Philippine University.
As you grew in wealth and started gaining success, what sort of tactics did you use to further your success in the industry?
Well, in 1865, I borrowed some money to start my own firm, Standard Oil Company. So from there, we bought out the Cleveland refinery that I invested in 1863. And, petroleum actually at the time was becoming, a staple export in American economics. And so we needed, I saw the money in it and I went towards it. So as I founded the Standard Oil Company in 1870 in Ohio, alongside my brother William and then one of our friends, Henry Flagler, we started this company, which, turned out to be very successful. Standard Oil, gained a monopoly over the oil industry by actually buying, rival refineries and developing companies for distributing and marketing its products. So what we were doing is we were buying out companies, and soon after a while, we kept getting more and more control over the oil industry, and basically there was no competition anymore. And then in 1882, these various companies that we bought out were combined all into Standard Oil Company. And in order to exploit the economics of sales, Standard Oil did everything from, building its own refineries to hiring its own scientists. So we really took pride in, taking the oil out of the ground, shipping it, and getting it to the consumers.
In 1889, Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, which was extremely detrimental to your oil industry. Explain some of the effects that it had on your company.
Respond. Well, as you just said about the light bulb being invented, it actually kind of did, hurt our business a little bit, because before electricity, we were using oil to light lamps, originally being whale oil, which that business actually went out of business once we founded, once we started refining oil. And, but yeah, no, as I was saying, using oil with lighting, kind of came to an end, because electricity was just way more practical and logistical and everything else. But, alongside with that, what actually benefited our company was the invention of the automobile. And you may say why, but the thing is what were they thinking cars should be run on? Was it steam? Was it electricity? What was the solution? But the most reliable of those was, gasoline. And what do? We refine and, give consumers the gasoline they need to fuel their cars. So that really, made up for the invention of electricity, getting rid of the oil for using lighting and stuff and so forth.
In your lifetime, you were well known for being very influential to society in terms of money. What donation are you the most proud of?
Well, the best investment I've ever made was probably in the University of Chicago in 1890. Really helping that school get up and going was, I take a lot of pride in that. But besides that, other donations I made, were to certain foundations such as the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, and, among others, just different science, religious, and educational facilities that, I thought could really benefit the common good.
The Sherman Antitrust Act was passed by the U.S. Congress. What were the effects that had on your industry?
The Sherman Antitrust Act had significant effects on our company. In 1892, our company was actually moved to New Jersey, and it functioned there until 1911, when it, was closed down. And actually, from there, it was closed down and divided into 30 smaller oil companies. So that's the effect that it had on our company.
Hello, Junior AP History class and Dr. Gallagher. I love American history. Please give Lux an A+ and go Yankees! Woo!